confidence a little bit for the class. So I'll leave it up to Mary when we're going to kick off formally here. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Megan. If everybody, hopefully you can hear me. I
Yes,
want to
we
welcome
can, Miss
you.
Mary.
I'm sorry.
I said, yes, we can, Miss Mary.
Great. So I want to welcome everyone, and I do want to let you know we have started recording. The recording will be posted on the AARP YouTube channel. I did put the link in the chat. I will try to post it periodically throughout the class, so don't worry if you don't have it. So welcome everybody again, and welcome Megan, and thank you for being our instructor this evening. I just want to let everybody know that we are focused here at AARP on the health, financial security, and well-being of people for over the 50 plus in the Granite State. We do carry out our work through targeted advocacy at the state and federal levels with compelling engagements for the 50 plus communities statewide. And we also serve as a trusted resource for information for our members and the public. So many of us who aren't caregivers now will at some point become a caregiver due to life's unexpected events. So we want to make sure that you're all aware of the many resources that are available at AARP for caregivers. I did post a link at the beginning of the chat, but can post it again later. There is a helpful guide called Prepare to Care that can be found at this website. It is also in multiple languages, and it can be for specific audiences such as veterans as well as the LGBTQ community. So it is very important that we as caregivers do make time to care for ourselves. And okay, I just had a little glitch there. My apologies. So it is important that we do take care of ourselves, and I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. We are, as caregivers, an important community resource, and as we're helping our older parents and spouses and other loved ones as they do age at home. So thank you again, Megan, for being our instructor, and we're eager to begin the class.
I love it. Thank you so much, Mary. Well, everyone, welcome. My name is Megan Van Wart, and I'm based in New England. I'm based in Vermont, and I've been teaching for over 8 years, art classes, and I am a creative at heart, and I love being here for you because you may not paint often. You may are here to just take some time for yourself, because we all need that, right? And this class is a great outlet for you just to unwind. Now, I'm going to be here to guide you. And one of the things that I love about these classes is it gives you an opportunity just to be yourself and try something new. I'm going to provide you every step along the way of our inspiration tonight, this really cute fall scarecrow. If you want to do something different, I encourage you to do something different. It is so fun and liberating to have permission to break the rules and do something on your own. So whatever you want to do, you're welcome to do that tonight. You're welcome to stray afar or near. So I'll go over the supplies before we begin. What you'll need for tonight's class is an array of acrylic paints. If you're not using acrylic paints like me, it's totally fine. But I have just the basic colors. I have red, yellow, blue, black, and white, and I mix custom colors along the way. So I'll show you how to mix custom colors. For these classes, don't feel like you need to buy anything fancy. You can go to the local dollar store, the local craft store, and buy really basic acrylic craft paints. That's totally fine. But there's other people that join these classes and they bring their watercolors or they bring colored pencils or maybe have some fun glitter markers. Like anything goes. So use whatever you have at home or whatever medium you're inspired to use and try. Okay. All of my classes are designed this way to make it really accessible for you. I'm painting on acrylic paper tonight, but you're welcome to paint on canvas boards, canvases, anything you want. I'm doing 11 by 14 canvas paper or acrylic paper, which is great. I love taking my artwork and putting it in these frames all behind me in my studio. It's really fun to kind of swap my artwork in and out, based on my expression and my personality, and all those things. So I've always put my favorites up in my studio. In addition to the paints and something to paint on, you'll need an array of brushes. I have some really basic acrylic like craft brushes. My biggest one is like a 1/2 inch right here. Excuse me. I have a little bit of a cough, so I apologize in advance. I have like a 1/2 inch, and then I just have some smaller brushes here. So use whatever you have at home, but you only need 2 or 3 brushes for tonight's class. I have a small paper plate to mix paints on so I can make my oranges and my browns. If you do have a pencil at home, I encourage you to grab a pencil for any light sketching and a paper towel for any messes. And then I have a cup of water to rinse my brushes. Okay. Now, there are lots of ways to approach painting. With the inspiration tonight, we're going to go ahead and paint a little bit of the background first. This is kind of a wood grain look, so you can use tans and browns. We're going to keep it fairly light in color. So I'll help you mix a tan color, and then we'll do some lines. So we're going to go through the background pretty quickly, and we'll let it dry, and then we'll paint some of the details on top, okay? So to make a tan color, we're going to go ahead and jump in, begin. If you have any questions, feel free to put them right in the chat window. Mary and I will do our best to keep an eye on those. So we're going to go ahead and mix a tan color first. We're going to need a little bit of white paint. So I'm going to put a little bit of white paint on my plate. A little bit of white paint. And then we're going to make a little bit of an orange. So a little yellow, and a little bit of red. So we're going to mix a tiny bit of red with yellow, and we're going to make an orange color. So I'm just going to put a little bit of white paint, and I'll do this with you, but get those paints all together. So if you want to get a little bit of white paint ready to go, you can do that. If you want to go ahead and get a little bit of mix an orange, but you're going to mix a little bit of orange. A little bit of yellow and a little bit of white, and you're going to play with a tan color. So I have a little bit of white there. I'm going to get a little bit of yellow on my plate, and I'm using really basic craft paints. I love making these classes really easy and accessible for everybody. You don't need fancy stuff to participate. And a little bit of red nearby. Excuse me. And I'm going to make a little red goes a long way to make an orange. So make enough of a tan color that you are happy. So I'm going to mix a little bit of an orange with yellow because my white's ready to go. So I'm going to make a little bit of a lighter orange. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this white paint. This white paint's kind of dry. Let me see here. A little bit of white paint. And you don't need a lot of paint. You could just do a really sheer background if you want. It's totally up to you. So you can be playful, and then you're gonna do diagonal brush strokes. So if yours is, this is a little bit yellowy, but that's okay. I'm just gonna do some diagonal brush strokes, and you can play with how much water you use. So this is kind of the fun part. In these classes, we always experiment a little bit. So try to keep your background as light as possible, but just be playful. So try dipping your brush in a little bit of water. If you get streaks of other colors, that's okay. If you want to make it a little more brown, you can bring in a tiny, tiny touch of blue to give it a little bit of a brown tinge. So just play with these colors. I'm going to try to keep this as light as possible. But any colors you want to use for this background, mine are going to be like yellows and oranges. This is the thing about art. You don't have to use the exact tans that are in the inspiration. Just have some fun. Use water to kind of move around the paint. It's kind of fun. Put a little bit of elbow and pressure. And I'm just doing some nice, strong diagonal brush strokes. And I'm going to fill the whole thing. And I'll show you my paint. This is a little bit of water right here. I made a little bit of mess on my plate. Usually I'm a little more tidy. But I'm just going to fill in. And I'm just going to come in and I'm going to dip my brush in a little bit of water. Watch this. Dip your brush in a little bit of water, kind of wipe off the water droplets, and then use this. Look at that. And just try to fill in the white. So there's some like oranges up there, a little bit of yellows. But don't be afraid to just go for it. You're not going to mess anything up, I promise. We're just doing a background together, okay? So try to feel liberated. Enjoy this process. Know that you can use different colors. It doesn't have to be all the same color, right? You can see I brought in a little bit more oranges here. That was a happy little accident. If you want to make it a little more brown, you can add, look, I added a tiny touch of blue to give it a little bit more of like a brown or more purpley. So anything really goes here, just have fun. A little bit of white, a little bit of yellow. I'm just being really playful with this palette. If you paint something you don't like, you can always paint over it. So we're going to be putting stuff on top of this, so don't worry too much. So I'm just dipping my brush again in a little bit of water. And I'm just going to try to fill in some of those white nooks and crannies. So while acrylic paint, it dries pretty quickly. And I'm going quickly to show you how easy it is, just to kind of to not be afraid of this process. I know if you haven't painted before, I've taught enough of these classes. Some of you might just be going a little slower, and that's totally fine. But it's really fun just to get the paint on. And I'm doing all these these diagonal brush strokes. If you want to make more of like a brown color, I'm having fun with these oranges, but I'll bring in a little more brown just to show you. There's a couple ways to make brown. If you remember back from your kindergarten days, which is, a long time ago for most of us, you mix red, blue, and yellow all together, and it will give you brown. So if you want to get like a more brown fall color, look at that. That's kind of like a burnt orange. That's kind of fun. There we go. So I have like a nice fall color here. All right. And I have like a nice brown right here. And I'm going to just dip my brush in a little bit of water. And I'm just going to be a little courageous here. This might scare some of you, but I'm just going to bring in a little bit of brown kind of near the edges with a little water. Look at this. This is kind of fun. A little rustic, bringing in some brown roughings kind of around the edges. So if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. But I love experimenting in these classes. And with not a lot on, you can kind of bring that brown kind of in and through. See that? One moment. And then I'm just going to dip my brush again in a little water. This kind of just cleans off some of the paint. So I'll let you play with that for a moment. My son is saying hello. All right. So take a minute and have fun with this step. If you want to bring in any brown, your goal is to fill the entire background. So we're going to spend about 10 minutes and 10 minutes only filling in this background. So be playful where you might want to bring in oranges. Be playful where you might want to bring in browns. And just be open-minded to seeing what happens. We're going to do the brown, like small lines for the wood panels after. If you don't want to do those lines for wood panels, you don't have to. Excuse me, my coughing. But I'm just going to continue to fill in this background with my yellows, and I was having fun with my browns, right? But this is an abstract background. It doesn't have to look like wood. It can just be fall kind of fun colors like this. So anything really goes here. So don't be really kind to yourself as you're filling this in. And I'm not using a ton of thick paint because we want this to dry pretty quickly. But I love how there's like a lot of different colors here, which is just, it adds a lot of character to your painting. And sometimes in our classes, we do kind of fun, kind of simple like paintings like this, with a simple subject and a background. But it's really fun to play and just feel like you can try different background, like colors and styles like this, because this is really abstract and there's no right or wrong here. So it's kind of fun just to know that going into it. So you can kind of grab different colors. Like I have more of a brownie orange, and then I'm bringing in like a little bit more of like the red orange just to be playful, right? So play with the colors on your palette. So I keep going kind of back and forth, which is kind of fun. And again, a little water on your brush will really help things blend in. So I'm kind of looking around and I'm just saying, okay, where do I have any of those white nooks and crannies? And I'm using kind of a wet brush to kind of get in there and fill in some of those white nooks and crannies. Okay. So we're doing great. I want to thank you all again for being here. And a big thanks to Miss Mary and the AARP New Hampshire team. We would not be here tonight without their support. We know how much you love these classes, and they know as well. So a big thank you to Mary for volunteering her time tonight to be with us. And a big thanks to the AARP New Hampshire team for having us. We are so grateful to be here with you. So thank you. So I'm just going to keep having fun. I'm going to bring in a little bit of yellow down here, see what happens. Ooh, look at that yellow. You can also put like play with turning your brush. So if you're using like a flat tip brush like me, you can hold it on there's a wide side of the brush and you can spin your brush with a more narrow side. If you want to take that narrow side and do some like longer, skinnier brush strokes to kind of add some different coloring, that's fine. See how I brought in a little bit of yellow right there? I'm just having fun. That's what this is all about. So just try to relax and enjoy the process. I'll remind you to smile and take a deep breath, all those things, because we tend to hold our breath when we paint, believe it or not. So breathe. But I'm just going to work my way down to this bottom right corner and finish painting the whole background. And that's your job too, okay? And try not to have, if you have any thick paint, so I have some lots of funky stuff going on. I like it. If you don't want to put in the wood grain, you don't have to, like the lines. And it's really hard to do that actually, unless you have a really straight edge. So I may not put in those lines. If you want to, I would say find a straight edge in your home, find a ruler, find a cereal box, find a magazine to help you with lines if you want to do that. If folks want to see those lines, drop some notes in the chat. I'm happy to do those lines for you. So just say, yes, Megan, do those lines, or just don't worry about it. But I'm happy to do the lines if anybody wants to see them for like wood paneling. So just use the chat and let me know if you want to see those lines. I am happy to do them if you want to see them. But again, our goal is to fill in the whole background. And I'm maintaining this diagonal. And I want this background to dry as much as possible, okay? Okay, yes, to the lines. Okay, let me grab my ruler. And I found it ever so quickly. Okay, so you can use, there's a couple things you can do for the lines. You can use a pen, right? I love breaking the rules with art and mixed media. So if you don't want to do a fine tip brush, if you don't want to use a small brush, you can use like a marker. You can use a Sharpie. You can use a black pen to do those lines. Okay. So I have a Sharpie right here. I'm just going to have some fun and I'll use a Sharpie just to show you. I have a black pen. Either of those would be fine. And you want your lines to be in the same green as this. So I'm gonna use a Sharpie so you can see it. So I'm just gonna do one kind of little corner up here. And I'm just gonna do a black Sharpie line. The trick is that you want to maintain the same height. I don't want to do a line like this. I need to do a line that is parallel to this one. And I'm going to do like 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe I'm gonna measure too. So I'm gonna do, let's see, that looks fairly even. And I'm gonna do another line with a straight edge. Okay. And I'm just using a Sharpie so you can see it. If you don't want to use a Sharpie, if you want to be really accurate, you can measure. So that's actually 3 inches, which is really funny. So I'm just going to put a little dot right here for 3 inches. And if you want to be really accurate, you can use your ruler to say, okay, that is 3 inches. And I'm making little dots to guide me, which is really helpful. Let me see. Let's do 3 inches here. So if you want it to be really accurate, you can measure it like this. Oh, so that's 3 inches. And then once I have a bunch of little dots right here, I can use my straight edge. So the height of each of my wood panels is 3 inches. That's basically why I did that. A lot of classes, I just eyeball it. So don't worry about it too much. We're going to be putting stuff over. So I'm just going to eyeball the rest just to be footloose, fancy, and free. I'm going to rotate my canvas to do my line so you all can see it. So I'm going to eyeball this. So you want the panels to all basically be the same size. And I'm not striving for perfection tonight. I'm just here to give you some framework. There we go. So there's just some black lines for wood paneling. I did a Sharpie. If you wanted to use brown paint or black paint or dark, dark brown paint, totally fine. These are all just details, and I can kind of paint over some of these and roughen them up a little bit if I want to, but I think it's going to be just fine. If you want to have some fun and do like little nail marks, you can do little circles for little nail marks on the sides, which is really fun. Like a circle, 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 circle to kind of make it look a little more rustic. So I just added like 2 nail marks here, 2 kind of dots here, just some fun things if you want to consider that. Okay. So I'm going to give you all a minute to I want your background to be dry and I want you to get those lines in. Okay, perfect. Everybody's doing those lines. Perfect. So again, I kind of took the easy way and just used a Sharpie. Sometimes when you use a paintbrush and you have too much paint on it, it can look really like goopy unless you have a really steady hand and you have like the right amount of paint on. Your lines may not look even like from a width perspective. So sometimes using like a brown marker or using a pen. It's you are the artist, right? So there is no right or wrong. And that is what I love, love, love talking about in these classes is sometimes people, when you join classes like this, you think you have to do something a certain way. And I love breaking that notion because all artists do their own thing. All those professional artists out there, they just go for it. And that is where they find their best work. That is where they find what makes them feel good. So, no matter what supplies or techniques or styles you do, that is art. So, just always embrace, that a part of the experience. And those are some of the values that we hold in our classes. It makes this far more approachable. It allows you to bring your personality into these pieces. Okay. And it's really liberating to be like, to know, like, if you're just going to go for it and just do your best and incorporate a little you. So it's really fun to do that too. So I'm going to keep an eye on the clock. I don't want to rush anyone. So I'm going to give everybody another minute or two. You can give me some thumbs up in the chat. Say I'm ready to go. If you need another minute, say another minute. But I'm going to give you all 2 more minutes to get those lines in, and then we're going to start sketching. All right, and I'm just gonna look at the chat. Perfect. Thank you for the thumbs up. I love those icons within Zoom for those interactive elements. It's awesome. Now, I'll talk through some of the next steps. If you're not there yet, that's okay. But I do want your canvas to be like majority dry. Again, ink and Sharpie lines dry quickly. So this is like ready to go, which is great. Um, we are going to do a little bit of sketching. So we are going to sketch the head and the hat. And then we're going to kind of be footloose and fancy free with his little neck frill. But the head should be in the center. If you want to lower the head a little bit, the hat is going to be on top of the head. Um, and I want you to make sure you have plenty of space around the head. Okay. So I want you to grab a pencil. Once I get my pencil sketches in, I will use a Sharpie to outline. so you can see my lines. Do not use a Sharpie at home. I'm doing it for demonstration purposes only. But my head, let me see here. Do I have any objects around me that I could demonstrate? Not really. Okay, so the head for me is the center of my canvas is here. I am going to, Janet, if you have a question, use the chat if possible. I know you have your hand raised. Sorry. But the head is going to be not in the center. It's just going to be slightly below, and it's going to be an oval. So this is going to be about the size of an orange, but it's going to be more of like a wide oval for me. So sketch the snowman's head. Snowman, scarecrow. It's snowing here in Vermont. I have snow on the mind here. So there's my oval. And I'm gonna have a head on it. So I'm a hat on it. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of the rounding under the chin. So you can see that. I may not even need to. And it's not perfectly center, so I'm going to take a minute to fix it. Or I just make it a little bigger. Sometimes we just make things a little bigger. So I want the spacing to be on the equal on the left or the right. Perfect. And you can do the hat. So sometimes I like doing like where the top of the hat is. So I use my finger for the top of the hat. So just take a minute and kind of have some fun sketching the top of the hat. It's a little wider on the top. It kind of comes down and it kind of flares out a little bit, out to the left, out to the right, and then the hat kind of comes down below the head. So the hat can come out as wide or as far as you wish. So just use your eyes. I'm going to step back. That's not too bad. I might make the top a little wider. So sketching takes a few minutes. So sketch the outline of the hat. Lean back in your chair. And I have these, I'm going to draw these lines on the side so you can see. These the brim of the hat, and I'm going to outline my snowman's head so you can see it. The brim of the hat on the sides comes down behind the head. See that? You can have a little bit of a wiggle on the top of the hat. And there's going to be a brim that goes across the top of the hat here, like a line. So see how the back of the hat kind of comes down in the back. So these are all the sketching elements I'm going to have you do. Okay. So this is kind of the element I want you to sketch. And you can play with how far down you bring this, right? You can see the top of his head's kind of tucked in the hat a little bit. I made the top of my hat a little wider. Totally up to you. I can make it even a little wider here if I wanted to, right? You can change your lines. If you want to take a minute and do like a cute little a straight ribbon sash on the hat, you can do a straight little ribbon sash. We can sketch that. That's easy. We're going to paint the whole head white whenever you're ready. No rush. And the hat will be painted black. So take your time sketching. You can use any size brush you wish. But I'm just going to jump in. It's going to take a couple coats of white paint to paint over the background. So do a thin coat of white. And this is where your scarecrow is going to come to life. I think our December class, we're doing a snowy owl. So if you have not yet registered for our December class, check it out. Be sure to join us. We're doing a really pretty snowy owl. So the scarecrow's face is white and the hat will be black. So if you want to take a minute to paint those in, Feel free to do that. Everybody's using different quality white paint. So sometimes the stuff from the dollar store is pretty thin. So you want to just do a thin layer and let it dry and come back to it. I'm making a mess. So a black hat, I'm going to do an orange sash. We can do that after. You can do it now, doesn't matter. And a black hat. So take your time, get your sketching in, and then start painting in some of these basic elements. Now, with all of our classes, I love being transparent that I know everyone paints at different speeds. Always go as slow and as paced as you wish, okay? I am here for you to enjoy the experience, not to rush you. So just know no matter how fast or how slow I'm going, you take your time, okay? The bigger the brush you use, the faster you can paint. But if you have some smaller nooks and crannies here, you may want to downsize to a smaller brush eventually. So I'm going to leave my sash unpainted because I'm going to put that as like an orange kind of color, I think. But I'm going to paint my hat black. We'll do detail work on the hat after. So the hat is black and you're going to paint the scarecrow's face white. And I'm going to do another coat of white on my scarecrow. So these are all really easy steps. I think drawing is probably the most difficult part so far. So I'm proud of you for you all, giving it your best bet, a little bit of sketching, but this filling in part is really fun and relaxing. That's why sketching sometimes helps. It kind of takes the edge off. So you can use a smaller brush. You can also kind of turn your big brush on the side if you feel like you're controlled doing small brush strokes. I'm leaving my sash unpainted. There we go. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush because I need more control within these smaller areas. Excuse me. So I'm going to grab a smaller brush for those smaller parts of my black hat. And I'm leaving my sash unpainted. Just take a couple deep breaths. Go nice and slow. Stay in the lines. And you want this brim on the top of his face to be pretty straight. So with a steady hand, try to get that as straight as possible. It's not too bad. And again, I'm going to paint. Okay. Okay. So that's my hat. The sash is going to go all the way around. My hat is pretty narrow on the top. I'm okay with it. It's kind of fun looking. I'm not going to change it, but if I wanted to make it a little wider, I could. So like if I wanted to make it a little, I'll make it a little wider. So I'm going to make it a little wider here, just a little bit. And I'll bring my sash out. Excuse me. That'll be my sash there. And then that'll be my sash there. All right. So I'm going to let that dry. My white is very transparent. I can still see my orange through it. So again, I told you with the white, we're going to need a couple coats of paint. So we just take our time and we just do a couple coats of paint. No rush. Clean off your brush as well. If you have multiple bigger brushes or multiple brushes, you're welcome to just grab a new brush. That's totally fine. But I'm just going to grab a little bit of my white here. Always, if you need to mix it with a little bit of water, if you have thick paint, you can use water to kind of soften it up. But I'm going to do another coat of white. Sometimes you might need 3 coats of white. That's why doing just thin coats up front. Acrylic dries pretty fast. So just do a couple thin coats, let it dry, and then just go back in. I want to make sure that your scarecrow has a nice white face before we put those facial elements on. But we have lots of different things we'll be doing in class. So we can let that dry. Like if you wanted to do an orange sash on the hat, you could do an orange sash right now. So kind of just go at your own pace. An orange sash. I would mix a little bit of white. So orange is yellow and red. I would mix a little bit of white um, with your paint to help cover up that background because you can always do a second coat on top. So let me see what we got here. I have a color. This is a good starting color. Just gonna kind of come in here and I'm gonna stay away from the black, but I'm just gonna do a little bit of a sash. And I'm gonna let it dry. Sometimes you need a couple coats. So just be patient with this process. Sometimes you can sketch like the scarecrow before doing the background, and then you don't have to paint over things as much. But tonight, to give us that cohesive kind of autumn wood-like background, I just had us do the background first, and we'll be painting on top of it. So there's always lots of ways to approach artwork. Just know that there's no, there's sometimes more right ways than others, but you can always try one or another, so it's not a big deal. But this is where you can get a little footloose and fancy free, right? You all are starting to kind of feel out where we're going. If you want to start giving your scarecrow a little bit of this like fun bow tie and frill, you can play with some like red orange colors. So I want you to be playful here. So I'm going to make a little bit of a reddish orange and I'm just going to have fun. Down here, I'm going to give like a little bit of a bow tie center. I'm just going to give it like a little mark. And I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to do a couple of these over here. And I'm just going to give them like a lot of different frills. So a lot of different colors. But I'm going to do one color at a time. So watch this. This is going to be my reddish orange. So I'm going to do a little bit of this here. Maybe I'll do a little bit of a thin one right here. We're going to go in and layer lots of colors, but we're going to do one at a time. Kind of think like when you add lots of ribbons to a package, you do like the reds first, right? And then you do the greens and then you do the blues, like as an example. We're going to do browns in here too, but if you want to add any of these, you can add some that are a little longer. But see how I have a little bit of reddish orange kind of all over? That's cute, right? Then just grab another color. So just have fun here. Again, you can't mess this up. Do one color at a time. I'm going to come in with my browns. And you're going to get the picture. This is all abstract. It's all for fun. I'm going to tuck in another color. So do one color at a time. I'm going to make a little bit more brown. So I did a little bit of the reds. I'm going to make a little more brown. So you can pick and choose what colors you use. If you want to add like a dark purple, ooh, that could be kind of fun as an element in here. You could do a dark purple. But these are kind of like wispy. They kind of like little fabric pieces to me. I don't know. I come from a very creative family. But just build out this neck piece here that our scarecrow friend is using. We are killing time and letting his hat dry. And look at this. You could do little short pieces. You could do long pieces. So fun. We're going to add some of this frill to the hat as well. But I want to finish the hat first. We're going to finish the band on the hat. But think about what other colors you may want to bring in. There's like a yellow right here. What is this golden orangey yellow that I have? I mixed a little bit of brown with yellow. Let's see what this looks like. I don't know if it's going to show up. Oh, yeah. So you can do as much or as little here as you wish. And we'll do like a little bit of detail work on some of this. But pick and choose, choose at least 3 colors that you want to bring in for the, I'm going to call it neck frill. Okay. It could be like a very fancy neck piece here that the scarecrow is wearing. This is like all the extra fabric that you have, right? You can make it a pie around the face as you wish. You could add some like green, oh, maybe I'll add some greens to this, like maybe some like vines, like think of like dried vines. So maybe I'll add some of that. This is where you can have fun, okay? We're gonna use all these same colors up top. So I'm just demonstrating for you on how you can bring this to life. If you wanted to use a smaller brush for consideration, you can do thinner pieces as well. So this, I did all those others in like one brush. You can use a thinner brush and add some smaller lines for some texture. So with anything, using, look at that, a little bit of smaller lines for some smaller texture. I'll grab a little bit of brown. I'm just going to show you what it's like to bring in some thinner lines for some texture, okay? So I encourage you to, there's a couple challenges here. Use 3 colors down below. Use one brush and then use a smaller brush for some thinner lines, okay? And tuck some thinner lines in. It's kind of like when you make grass blades in a field, you make grass blades of all different sizes to add dimension. These are some thinner lines. I'm going to add some twisties because, art is about creativity. And I'm going to add some of these twisties in here too. Some of these like curling vines because it's very fall-like. I added a little twisty here, a little curly Q. I have water on my brush to make it easier. Adding a couple twisty curly Qs. But don't add just one, add them kind of all over. And again, I just mix a little water on my brush. I like to spin my brush on the side of the plate. So this is where I want you to feel liberated, have fun, be footloose and fancy free, and try something new. If you want to add greens, you can add greens. I'm going to go back up to the top and work on my band in a minute, but I'm just getting you going with this creative experience tonight. Getting you off and running. And I'm using a smaller brush for some of these curly cues, okay? Maybe you outline some of your yellow with a little brown. We'll do more detail work after, but I did some basic details and I did some basic colors. We'll go in and make it look a little bit more sophisticated, but I'm getting you going with some of this downward frill, okay? I'm going to work on my band on the top. My band is supposed to be an orange color. Let me see if I can. I want this to be a solid color. So I'm going to take a minute just to make my band on the hat a solid color. So I have to choose what color I want this to be. This is kind of an orangey, reddish peach color. So I'm just doing some nice, smooth, solid brush strokes. And just slow down and enjoy this process. And I want you to work on areas that work for you. You might be waiting for one area to dry. So go work on some of those curly cues and some of those tassels while one area is drying. Maybe your face needs another coat of white paint, okay? You pick and choose. We have lots of time. I'm just here getting you going. You're gonna bop around, and it's okay to bop around because you're gonna want one thing to dry. I'm gonna come in and fix my hat detail here. I made my hat a little bigger. I gotta fix it. Okay, so my band, I can still see the background lines through the band. That means I should do another coat, so I can give it a minute. Again, breathe, be a little patient. Before we paint the face, I want you to have enough white paint on our scarecrow. Very important. And we're not going to do any of the frill on the hat until we're done this band or sash on the hat, okay? So I'm going to focus on getting the white paint on the face of the scarecrow. and just getting some basic colors down here on this bottom frill. I'm going to add more details down here, but this is just some nice 1, 2, 3 colors like we talked about. And I went in with a smaller brush. So while things are drying here, feel free to use a smaller brush. Look at our inspiration. Build it out as much or as little as you wish. But I'm going to grab some more white paint. And do another coat of white paint on my face. And being patient and doing that coat of white on your face, doing the 3 coats or whatever you need, it's worth it. It makes your face so much brighter. Excuse me. But I hope you're having fun. I'm so glad you're here with us tonight. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm going to use a little more white paint on this face. I'm going to let everything else dry. Once my sash is done, I can do some of that fun frill on the top in different spots. But if you're new here, our classes are usually about an hour and a half. If it's a really detailed design, it might be 2, but our classes never ever go over 2 hours. They're usually right about an hour and a half, just for awareness. Tonight's inspiration is fairly simple. We're going to do some detail work. We have the face to do, obviously, and we're going to do lots of detail work down below too. And we're going to do some detailed dimensional work on our hat. But I want to make sure our face of our scarecrow is totally white. That is a good solid background of our scarecrow's face now. So I'm going to let that dry. Excuse me. And there is a little shading, gray or like blue shading on the face itself. So I might show you how to do a little bit of that on the underside of the chin. It depends on, how detailed we want to get. I am going to do a little bit of the frill coming up around his face a little bit. This is a boy, apparently. I'm going to do a little bit of frill coming up here. And again, you can do as much or as little detail as you wish. Kind of like keeps him warm a little bit. I don't know. He needs this warmth. It's fall, so we got to stay a little warm here. We're in New England, so I got to keep him toasty. See how I brought it up a little higher? I can always grab a little bit of brown and just do a little bit of brown accent lines. This brush isn't too tiny, so grab a smaller brush if you want to play with some of that fine line detail. It's really fun. We'll do a little, I'm going to grab a smaller brush for some more fine line detail in the second half of the class here. But I brought that frill up around his face a little bit. Here we go. So I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to do one more coat on my sash on the head because I can still see the lines behind. So I'm going to let my face dry. It's still drying. Sorry if you could hear my 1-year-old. He heard me. He was coming down the stairs. I'm going to do another coat on my sash here. There we go. A nice another coat here. And that's good for my sash on the hat. And it's that same peachy red color, those nice fall colors. So with these classes, there's a common theme. If you've done these classes before with me, you'll get this, is I try to use all colors that match and complement one another. So we have our oranges and our browns and our mustards and our reds, and they're all tying into these fall colors, doing this intentionally so it looks good and matches, right? Okay. I'm going to sketch my face on my scarecrow, but not until my face is totally dry. If you take a pencil or a pen and you try to sketch it on wet paint, it will like dig into your canvas and it's just bad news. It gets all smudgy. So I'm going to be really patient and not do that yet. But I am going to grab a smaller brush. And again, go at your own pace here. But my sash is fairly dry. Well, not dry, but it's done. So I can kind of add in with a thin brush a little bit of this frill up to the top. Now, some of these kind of look like leaves a little bit. So just do some longer ones. And I'm just gonna go on the side of the sash right now, but I'll do some on top too once it dries. But I'm just gonna do some kind of fun detail here, over here on the side. And I'll just do, I'm gonna grab some oranges and yellows and I'll do some on the other side. So I'm just gonna layer in a little bit of detail. No, I'm gonna use a smaller brush. So I have a smaller brush here. One of the tips I love sharing in all my classes is I talk about paint management, and it's a very technical artist term, aka it's not. It's just me sharing with you how I manage paint on my brush. You don't want it to be too goopy. You want it to have just enough. And I love spinning my brush on my plate to manage how much paint is on my brush. Because with the right amount of paint, I can come in and just use the tip of the brush to kind of create some of these kind of faux leaves on the sides, right? Some of these wispies. Okay, so I did some oranges over here. I'm gonna do some of these over here as well. I'm just gonna kind of tuck them in. And I'm gonna do some more leaves on top, but I'm gonna wait for my sash to dry. So I'm just doing some fun detail here to get it going. And then I'll show you how to do it on top once that sash dries. We're gonna use a little white paint to cover up some of that work. But it'll be worth it. So trust and follow the process here. While your sash is drying and your face is drying, one really fun detail to consider. Again, we're all doing our own thing here, but I'm going to make a brown. So brown is, all those colors mixed together. Red, yellow, and blue. I'm going to make a little more brown, and I'm going to do a little bit of outlining and detail work. So watch this. So I'm going to make a little bit of brown here. I need more. I ran out. That's like a yucky color. If you get like a yucky color, add a little more red. If you get like a yucky baby poop color, add more red. It'll make it more brown. Add a little more blue, add a little more red. It will turn brown, I promise. And I want it to be like kind of dark, so I'm adding a little more blue because I like that color. So find a brown that if you're of your choice. And if you wanted to add a tiny touch of black to make it darker, you could. We're gonna do a little bit of like outlining work for some of our frill on the neck area while everything else is drying. So if you wanted to play with this detail, you could. If you don't want to, just keep plugging away. But I'm letting the sash dry and I'm letting the face dry. So I have a small brush, and all I'm gonna do is any of these, like, I'm gonna find the knot first. So I'm gonna outline my knot. Like this is the bow tie. See how I outline that? You can barely see it. That means I'm gonna make it a little darker for you guys. I'm adding a little more black to my brown. So you're gonna do some just gentle outlining, and this is all optional. So I'm gonna outline this, and then I might, and even with a little water on your brush, spin your brush so you have a nice fine point. I'm gonna find some of these red strands, and I'm gonna outline some of these. Maybe outline the left, outline the right, and just see what happens. They're gonna start to jump off the page a little bit. So if you want to outline any of these fun frills and sashes, part of your sash, get some of that brown. This is all optional. This is where you can kind of do what you want to do. But I'm just giving you some fun detail work to consider as we're waiting for some other things to dry. So I'm doing the brown on the red. It's kind of fun. If you want to add a couple like little wiggles, like a little bit of extra detail, you can do that. Maybe you only want to outline one edge of the red, that's fine. You want to make it darker, you can make it darker to match the hat. Totally up to you. I'm using a nice small brush and I'm spinning the tip of it so it's nice and fine. And I'm going nice and slow. Sometimes you can put your pinky on your canvas to stabilize your hand. So there's a lot of different things to try. But this is your painting, so I want you to go at your own speed. I'm letting my face dry entirely before I do the face detail. But I'm going to outline some of this work. So I'm doing the red and I'm just outlining some of the red to have the red stand out. So I'm just choosing one color and I'm just outlining some of this work. And I gave that middle just a little bit of a point right there. Okay. There's a lot of really fancy things we can do to this, but we're just going to keep it really simple tonight. So anywhere you want to do a little bit of outlining, you can see the details really starting to come to life. You can decide if it's dark enough or if you want to add darker contrast. I like the darker contrast personally. Maybe for some of these browns, I'll do a little bit of an outline. I'm here having fun. I might add a little bit of a twist. I added a little bit of a twist down here. If you know me, I love just breaking the rules and just being really spontaneous in these classes. Because it's art and it's okay to just like have fun sometimes. So you don't have to be all crazy like me, for our Wednesday night here. But if you want to incorporate any of your own ideas, feel free. If you have any cool ideas that have just like come to you, share them in the chat. Some of you are probably like tucking little pumpkins in or like little red berry clusters or like a little bird on the side of the hat. Like I'm sure some of you are doing some really clever and creative things. I would love to hear what you're doing, and I'm sure everyone else in the class would love to hear that too. I'm going to do a little bit of outlining up here for some of these lines at the top. But I love this because these dark contrasting lines, they really start to tie to the hat and the contrast of the hat. And I'm using like a dark brownish black color for this. And if you don't like this, you don't have to do it. I'm just having fun, and that's the most important part. I can always bring in more reds or burgundies into any of this, but I'm just embracing the process, okay? Cool. Um, if you want to do some wispies on top of your sash, my sash is pretty dry. I'm going to use white and oranges to kind of paint on top of it. The white paint is going to help cover up and get my color on. So I'm going to kind of put another color on top of this. So you can use like a orangey white to get that first detail and design on. And you'll see mine in just a minute. I'll show you, I'll demonstrate what that looks like. I'm just getting that color on my brush ready to go. It's a little goopy. I don't know what's going on here. All right. So I could do a couple leaves here. So I'm going to do it in like a white so you can see it. So I'm going to use white, this peachy white color just to show you. See how these are coming like right on? And I'm going to fill this right in. See how there's flowers coming like right on top? I'll bring this a little closer so you can see it. Once this dries, I can put my oranges and my reds on top of it. But see how that covered up that paint really well? That's the intent. It's kind of creating that flower in the foreground of the hat, not behind the hat. So that's why I put it right on top. Excuse me. Okay, so see how that's on top? I'm gonna let that dry and then I'll put my reds and stuff on top of it. The one on the side over here, those are behind, so I don't need to. But this one in the front's gonna be on the front. Does that make sense? So I did fun wispy. Some of you may have done leaves or like other things. I'm just having fun with my scarecrow. I'm gonna do his face as soon as this is dry. I have a little bit of a wet spot in the middle. I'm not gonna rush it. I'm not gonna rush it. So I'm going to give you all a few minutes to play with those details. Take your time. There's no rush. No rush. Maybe find another color. So maybe for these yellow wispies, I use like a red to outline. So let's see what that would look like. So this is all about the expansion and the evolution of your painting. So I'm going to use a red outline or a reddish brown on some of these oranges and yellows down here, just to bring some of these to life. So this is just having fun. You make your own choices on what to do. If anybody wants me to try anything that you have an idea from, I am happy to be the guinea pig here and paint something on mine if you want to see it. So please use the chat window if you would like for me to demonstrate anything. But I'm using this burnt orangey red color to outline some of the yellow. And it's the same color that I've used in other areas, but it's just adding a little bit of extra detail. Excuse me. But if you want to add more red, add more red. If you want to add purple anywhere, add purple. Like this is your scarecrow. So see what happens with it. Be open to additional details. I'm going to add a little bit of red up here to this feather on the cap. That's not quite dry, but you can see how it's coming to life, right? But maybe add a little bit more red in some areas. If I want it to be a little more red, if you want it to be a little more yellow, add some more paint on top. Acrylic dries quickly, which means you can always add more color. You don't have to just keep what you have. You can keep adding more to it, which is really fun. In the painting like this, you can say, I want to make it a little more vibrant. And look at, I made it a little more vibrant by adding a little bit more red here and there. See that? That brightened it up quite a bit just by adding a little bit more red. I put a little on his cap, right? I can put a little more red up here and some of these fluffs, you know. Look at that. So it's just, it's such a great example of art on how it can change and evolve over a class. Now, I know many of you have been here before and you have surprised yourselves from the first part of class to the second part of class saying, oh my gosh, Megan was right. Like this has totally changed. And I always talk about it as like trusting the process on how your artwork can evolve if you just like let yourself just be a part of that process. It's really fun. And you can surprise yourself. It's really quite funny. But if you have any ideas, if there's anything else you want me to incorporate, please do not hesitate to ask. Maybe some more oranges here and there. Lean back in your chair and say, what else do I want to add and where? Do I have all the colors I want to use? You know, I'm adding a little more orange. Excuse me. And you can let it dry and you can think about it. Okay. But we're going to do the face in just a minute or two. My face is almost dry. I'm trying to be so patient. I have a little bit of brown down here. I'm going to use a thin brush and outline some of this brown with a darker color in areas. A little extra contrast. I'll do something fun and different. This is like really different. Let me get some fresh white paint. I might do some like white polka dots on some of these some of these red flashings. If you don't want to do white polka dots, I'm having fun because we're here to have a good time. Let me see here. I have the round end of a paintbrush and I'm just dipping it in some of my white. I'm gonna mix it a little. My white paint's really thick. I accidentally bought a heavy medium, a heavy bodied acrylic, which don't do that. Like it's so hard to use. I just ordered more. I've been trying to get through this bottle for like 6 months. It's so thick, I had to mix water with it, but it's okay. It's all good. But I'm just mixing a little bit of what I'm just have white paint on the end of this, and I might just do some fun like tiny white polka dots on some of the red just to add a little bit of fashion here. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. But I'm always here to do something a little different. So I'm gonna just do soft, gentle touches, and I'll bring it closer so you can see it. But this is just kind of like it's like a red ribbon turning into like a red spotted ribbon. Oh, that's a big white clump of paint. Let's just take that right off. I can paint right over that. Excuse me. And I'll bring this closer so you can see it in a minute. But I'm just doing a couple of like fun little white polka dots. And I'm just doing tiny ones, tiny little touches. And I love this. It just makes it a little bit more, a little character. Again, you don't have to do this. I'm just having fun with life here. And I'm just gonna do it on some of the red ones. I'm gonna get through some of these and I'll show it to you. Isn't that cute? It kind of just turned into the holidays a little bit, but I love that. It's just a little bit of extra detail. How can I cover the background on the sash? You just need more paint to cover the sash, the background on the sash. So add some white paint. If your paint isn't covering it, add white paint on top of what you've done and then paint on top of the white after it dries. So those are just some fun polka dots, just to add a little character to the to my frill of my scarecrow, which is kind of fun. I like that. But I'm using the round end of the brush, just soft little touches. So it's just so silly, but like, look at that. Just add a little bit of extra flair. So fun. Okay. We're gonna do some depth work, some like highlighting on the hat after and on the brim, but we're gonna do the face next. Um, take your time if you're still working on all these details. There's no rush. Again, this class, everybody's working on different things, which is totally fine, totally fine. But I'm going to, is this still wet? I don't want to touch it. I think it's dry enough. I might give it another minute. So we're gonna add a little bit of highlighting on top of the black hat, a little bit of highlighting on the side, a little bit of highlighting on the brim of our hat. I might need to make my brim. Make sure you have a clear brim. If you don't have a clear black brim, you might need to do what I'm gonna do right now is take a little bit of extra black paint and make sure you have a nice solid flat rim that goes across the hat, the front of the the scarecrow's head. So see how I just brought that rim down a little bit more? That will help me with the detail work we're going to do in a minute. So if you need to have a straighter line so you can see the brim of the hat, I encourage you to do that now. I might bring mine down a little bit more. A lower brim per se. But I want it to be sort of straight. This is the tricky part. You got to kind of use your hand. Go nice and slow and steady. Excuse me. So it's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close. Excuse me. But I'm so glad everybody's here. Don't forget to take a big deep breath. And I want to again thank the AARP New Hampshire team for having us. I'm just going to scroll down, look at the chat. Debbie, yeah, I know we talked about filling in your background. Go ahead and my head's kind of tilted a little bit. I should probably fix that. My brim anyways. Just gonna make it a little straighter. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna let my brim dry. I'm gonna do my face detail. I'm gonna describe some of these details. We're gonna do the mouth first, and then we're gonna do the nose and the eyes. The mouth is very wide, so I want you to find the corners of the mouth, and I'm gonna use my pencil, And you're going to do a little dot, high dots for the corner of the mouth. And that's going to allow you to step back in your chair and draw a single line for a smile. Okay? We're going to start easy. So I did a single line for a smile. Mine is a very big smile, and I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to embrace the smile that I've done because it just turned into a very happy scarecrow and it doesn't even have a face yet. And then um, the eyes are teardrop shape. They're rounded on the bottoms. And I'm going to find where I want the top of the teardrop to be. So I'm going to put a little dot on where I want the top of the teardrop to be. You want there to be a little bit of white space. And then you can do any kind of style teardrop that you want. Oh, he's going to be so happy. And then it's kind of a teardrop nose. So I'm going to let you play with the shape of your face. Can you see mine? So funny. I'm going to play with the shape of my eyes a little bit. This is why we use pencils. I'm just going to embrace it. I think it's like, it's really a friendly scarecrow. The eyes are going to be black and we'll build our mouth out. So the mouth, the edges towards the corners of the mouth are going to be narrow, but the mouth is going to get a little bit bigger. And you can draw this if you want. It's going to get a little bit bigger towards the middle area. And then we'll do the black lines after. So the eyes can be black filled in. The mouth can be black filled in. And then we'll do those fun lines. So take your time with your sketching. Erase as you go. Take your time with that. Try to use a small brush. Okay. We'll do the detailed work around the eyes and the mouth after. I haven't painted a scarecrow like this in a long time. So cute. I hope everyone's loving this. It is so fun. It's going to look a little creepy here before we put the white dots inside the eyes. So just bear with us here. Excuse me. And then again, a small brush as possible, keeping these lines nice and thin on the corners of the mouth. And take your time. If you're still sketching, keep sketching. Excuse me. Take your time to make things even where you need them to be. Just kind of step back in your chair, lean back. You want the kind of the corners of the mouths to be as even as possible. Excuse me. And then there's these little lines that go through the mouth. So above the mouth, straight down and below to give it the stitched look. And try to keep these as thin as possible. If you need to spin your brush on your plate, if you need to add a little water, get smaller with your lines as you get to the corners of your mouth. Shorter in length. Excuse me. Go nice and slow. Don't forget to smile. If you want to name your scarecrow, you can name him or her. Get shorter with your lines as you get towards the edges of the mouth. Corners. Okay. And if you want to do those little stitches around the eyes, you can do that now, or you can wait. There's just little lines using just the tip of your brush. Try to go nice and slow. Leave a white space around the eye itself and do a stitch all the way around. I'll bring this a little closer so you can see it. Mine's not perfect. Don't worry if your lines aren't perfect. We're here to have fun. Just pay attention to the tip of the bristles of your brush when you're doing these details. Spin your brush on your plate. Again, if you need to put a little water on, you can put a little water, but spin that brush so you have a nice fine point. That will help you. Use your pinky to stabilize your hand. Go nice and slow. Excuse me. Okay. The nose of the scarecrow is orange. I hope you're loving this. This is so stinking cute. I hope everybody's having fun. All right, the nose of the scarecrow is orange. So you're gonna paint it orange first, and then we're gonna outline it in black after, but let it dry first. We're gonna do a nice orange nose, any color orange. I have like a brownie, like reddish orange. That's just what I'm using. I just had it on my plate. My nose is not perfect. I went outside the lines. It's okay. I'm embracing my person here, my scarecrow. If I want to fix the bottom of my nose, I can always put white paint over that after. So don't worry too much. Once your eyes are dry, you can do a white dot in the bottom of your eye. That will help make it look less creepy. So I can put a little white dot right there and a little white dot right there. And now he looks friendly and not demon-like. Nice. He looks like a grateful scarecrow now, not a demon scarecrow. Like this is a Thanksgiving grateful scarecrow. Like he is so happy that I've created him tonight. And then as you're working on all these details, one of the things you can consider is with a little bit of white paint and a small brush, get some, I'll show you a little bit of like a highlighting detail. Put a little bit of water on your brush with a little bit of white paint and just kind of wipe it off on the side so you have a little bit of white paint. And then on the top of the hat, you can kind of like outline like the top of the hat a little bit with a little bit of white paint. If you want to use your finger to kind of smudge it in, this is always fun. So you could do a little bit of white paint like that and then use your finger to smudge it in. So a little bit of highlighting along the top of the hat and smudge it in. That's kind of fun. If you want to do a little bit of that in like the middle of the hat, use your finger to kind of smudge it in vertically. Always fun. Maybe just above the sash a little bit, and I'm just smudging it in my finger. See how I just brought a little bit of highlighting? It was just a little bit of white paint and water, and I used my finger and I just smudged it. So you can do as much or as little of that as you want. If you mess up and you feel like you don't like it, use the corner of a wet paper towel and you can kind of wash it off a little bit. But you can also use this highlighting trick on the brim. So from the left side of the brim, you can go straight across and you can just do a little bit of a white line to highlight the brim of the hat. And I'm going all the way across right there. See how I just highlighted the front line of the hat right there? See how it just kind of jumped right out? So play with, again, maybe on below the sash here, I'll add in a little bit of smudging. So a little bit of water and white paint to smudge. Maybe I'll add a little bit of highlighting on that sash. You could do the same thing, highlighting some of the sash. Super fun. If you want to use, black paint to kind of outline the sash again, you could do that to have the sash stand out. See how that was really just jumped and came to life? Oh, Deanna said she doesn't do well with paint, but she's using colored pencil tonight. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you so much, Deanna, for sharing. And I'm so glad that you are doing something different, but you also enjoyed the process. So I love that. And you can see how mine compares to the inspiration. It is bright, it's full of life, and I took my own spin on it. And that's really why we're here, right? So, Deanna, thank you for just using whatever mediums that work for you. It's very motivating, encouraging for others to just try other mediums too, if they want to. So, thank you so much for sharing that. So you can play with some of the white smudging, but we're doing great for time. So if you want to use a little bit of, once your nose is painted, you can do a little bit of black outlining detail work. I think I'm going to do, excuse me. I think I'm going to do a little bit of, I'm going to fix the white under my nose first. You can do black outlining detail under your nose. So I'm just going to reshape my nose. This is the power of acrylic. You can reshape anything on the face if you don't like it by using white paint. White paint's kind of your eraser. But how fun is the scarecrow? I hope you all love it so far. But this is where in class you can do as much, more, or as little as you wish. I'll show you a little bit of shaded work around the edge of the face in just a minute. But I'm going to outline my nose in black carefully. I'm gonna go around, not do the bottom yet, but you can give your scarecrow two little nostrils if you want to give two little nostrils. So any additional like outlining work you want to do on any of this frill, you can. I'll bring mine a little closer so people can see some of the detail. But you can see it's very simple in some areas. And that's one of the choices we have with art. We can keep going and do some fine line outlining and detail. You can do anything. And I did those fun white polka dots, which I really loved. Like that for me was just like a fun little thing to bring a little personality. But yeah, you can do as much or as little as you wish. I'm gonna do a little bit of a line on the underside of this nose. I'll show you a little bit of shading detail on the face. This is optional, but I'll show it to you so you have it for consideration. You can make a light gray color. So with a little white and a little black will give you a gray. So if you make a gray, I'll show you how to add a little bit of shading on the edges of the face. This is for consideration. If you don't like it, you can watch me do it. So this is a gray that I made right here. You can even make it a little lighter if you want. And I'm going to spin my brush, okay, in this. And I don't have too much on it. You can always get a little water too on it and then kind of just wipe it off a little. But you can add over here on the left and the right side, you can add a little bit of shading around the edges of the face, on the sides and under the chin, if you wanted to add more dimension. I'm just going to show this to you. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. You can use your finger to smudge it in if you want to. If everything else around you is dry, you can use your finger to smudge. You can also use water. In the inspiration, it's actually a little more contrasting. So maybe underneath the hat here, I just do a little bit. But you get the picture here, right? a little contrast around the edges. And if you don't like this, you can always paint over it. Okay, so it's just like a little bit of extra texture on the face. If you want to leave it plain white, that's fine too. But you can smudge it. You can always bring in a little bit more white if you want to kind of play with the texture a little bit. You can bring white on top of the gray to kind of smudge it in. So be playful with this. I'm just giving it to you, showing you this as an example. All right. So again, details that you can play with for the next few minutes are doing any second coats. Like if you can see through anywhere, do a second coat of color here and there, right? If you can see through, do a second coat. If you want to go through and do some of your yellows again, a second coat of yellow. You can do more browns. I would love to see your artwork. If you want to share it with me or the AARP team, we would love to see it. We always love seeing your artwork. Be sure to email us. Miss Mary, did you paint with us tonight? Are you hanging out? She might be busy doing things, but I don't mind checking in with her. But I'm going to add a little more yellow here and there. So yellow can brighten it. If you want to bring it to life a little bit more, you can easily, excuse me, you can easily add more red if you want to brighten it with red or oranges. But this is where, again, your painting can evolve and change and grow as much or as little as you wish, right? And
Yeah,
if you want
I
to
did
take the
paint,
time,
Megan.
you are painting, Mary?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, okay. Do you want to tell us how your scarecrow came
Interesting.
out? So is that like full of personality and style, Mary?
Oh, it definitely has personality.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Mary, what is the best place for folks to share your art, to share the artwork? Is there a good email for them to share it with, or I can give them mine?
Why don't you give him yours, Megan?
Sure, I'll do that. And then I can share everybody's with the team. There is a class in December, Joan. We're doing a beautiful snowy owl. It's going to be so much fun. Be sure to register for our December class. My email is Megan at paintandsipvt.com. Okay. So, folks, if you want to share with me your artwork, I would love to see it, and I can share it back with the AARP New Hampshire team. But I hope everyone's enjoyed our class tonight. Again, you can do as much or as little detail as you wish, but I love the way that this came out. I love doing these like whimsical, lighthearted inspirations every once in a while. We do landscapes, we do a little bit of everything in these classes. We do animals, we do lots of different things. So thank you for being here. And again, a big thanks to AARP New Hampshire for having us. It's always a pleasure being here with each of you, giving you an excuse and a break from the everyday. So I want to say thank you, and it's nice to see everybody. I can check the December date for you. Excuse me. And Mary, if you want to stop the recording, feel free. But I'll go ahead and check that December date. Excuse me. Our December date is December 10th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. December 10th. All right.